Welcome to yet another interesting episode of our podcast. Today's podcast, we are talking about safe transformation, and we have the SPCT and Transformational Architect with us. We have Satya. Welcome, Satya, to our podcast.
Pleasure.
So we get to see very complex product development that is happening, right, in all the industries. And the enterprises are also trying out different frameworks. They are, adopting Agile. In this world, right, fast growing world, what value does this scaled Agile framework bring in? And when do we go for safe transformation?
Yeah. So, if you look at the industry, people started adopting Agile, the enterprises started adopting Agile and practicing in the last 2 decades. Right? But if you look at the complexity of product development, 20 years ago versus today is very different. Even if you look at the technology landscape, the tool landscape, and the complexity itself is evolving. So, what is the biggest problem any organization facing today? Right? How quickly they can take the innovation or the solution to the market. Right? So for that, practicing only Agile at the team level is not sufficient. The entire organization has to be Agile. Right? So the entire business has to be Agile. So for that, SAFe is the right framework, which will help us, to achieve business agility, so that your entire organization is, focusing on becoming more agile and lean, so that the idea is how quickly, we can take the solution all the way from idea to the market, right? So, developing a simple application with one agile team versus, building a large solution with large number of, teams or engineers involved, the complexity is very huge. So, hence, it is a scaling framework. Whenever you want to scale your agile practices for large-scale product development, and in addition to that, having only agility at product development and rest of your organization, especially the enabling functions, continue to be in a traditional way is not going to help. So the entire organization has to be, the agile. This is where SAFe as a framework, which helps the organization to deliver value much faster than their competitors.
Yeah, this is something very new. Whenever we hear the term transformation, agile transformation, it's usually the technology-based teams who are they usually get involved in the transformation. Now you are mentioning that the entire organization has to be aware of following the agile practices.
Absolutely. See, SAFe is for lean enterprises. So product development is definitely an important aspect, but in order to deliver value, there are many other functions which contributes directly or indirectly. So sooner or later part of the transformation, you need to onboard all of them, right? So that, the whole idea is, how faster I can take the innovation to the market, and how can I build quality solution. And also as an organization, is my entire business is agile, So all this is critical today. Right? Because complexity is huge. One side technology is changing. At the same time, the end user, customer expectations also radically changing, dynamically changing. So, in order to address all of this, I think we need to have some structured approach, and this is where SAFe is a great framework which will help us to address many of this.
Usually, the project managers or the middle management, they approach us consultants for safe transformation, right? Because they know in and out, and they know the problem what the organization is going through. So if they approach us, how would it lead to the transformation?
See, if somebody, from the mid layer of the enterprise, approaching anybody seeking the help for, transformation, first thing, it's a good thing, because somebody within the system is realizing that, there are issues and we need a systematic approach to deal with this. But when you do, a big change like SAFe, right? So onboarding the leadership in the journey is extremely critical. So the leadership drive is something very, very critical for the success of the transformation. So it means to say, even though somebody, like engineering manager or mid layer of the enterprise is approaching you, but circling back to the leadership and understanding their needs and expectation, whether they are able to resonate with what an engineer or a manager is thinking, do they also think the same, that there is a need for change, there should be a need for systemic way of addressing the change, whether they see that, number one. Number two is, many of these leaders may know about SAFe or may not know about SAFe. So if they know about SAFe, nothing like it. Because, at many times, I encounter leaders, they are worked with some ex-organization and the experience with the SAFe, and now they're working with this organization. So they already know what is SAFe and what value it can bring in onto the table. But some leaders, if at all they are new, the first thing is to bring in that education, right? Because if they don't know what they want to implement, that's not right. So first thing, let's understand what the framework is, what are the principles, what are the values, how do we convert the principles into practices in the real time, and how the framework, the principles, what we are adopting is going to help organization-specific challenges, what they're experiencing today. So gaining that understanding is something important from a leadership point of view. Once they gain that understanding, I think they are the right people to decide, SAFe is the right way to go about it. As an expert, as a consultant, I would like to provide all the required information, not just about SAFe, but also how SAFe is delivered value in the marketplace, especially for their competitors, if their competitors are adopted SAFe. All that information I provide and allow them to make the right decision for themselves.
So we're getting an idea that for SAFe transformation, leadership support is very critical. And in the last podcast, we discussed about the role of an SPC in the transformation. So what else?
Okay. So from a transformation point of view, so now we have SPC who knows about the framework and how do we implement it, right? Then we also, have a leadership engagement. That means they convinced that, okay, SAFe is the way to go about it. They made the decision. Mm-hmm. The next is, we can reflect on where we are, like as a state.
Okay.
So how do we assess the as a state? Different ways and means in which we can assess it. Of course, one is the SAFe Business Agility Assessment, which will help you to reflect your as a state on the 7 core competencies of SAFe. Or, you can have, the conversation from all the way from leadership, mid-layer and the team level to basically understand what is working well for them and what is not working well for them. And you can consolidate all this problem statement, connect the dots and look at what is really working well in the context and what is not working well, and how part of the transformation we can deal with many of these the challenges. So sometimes understanding the as a state need some extraordinary effort and work. Again, depending on the complexity. If it is 50-60 people organization or a product line, then probably understanding as a state is much faster. A couple of days of effort, probably the problem. Imagine the complexity with some 400-500 people, right? Monster code base, monolithic architecture, large number of engineers, 400-500 people coming together to build a solution. They're geographically distributed in different locations. So the complexity is huge. And also they're serving multiple geographies. On top of that, sometimes these solutions what they're building, probably compliance related aspects also has to be taken care. So in such situation, we have to probably look at all the aspects, what is working well and not, maybe from a product agility point of view, technology point of view, architecture, engineering practices, people, the tools, the ecosystem of the tools what they have, how often they're delivering value, how they're connecting to the market to understand the needs and expectations of user. A whole lot of things has to be done to understand the as a state, right? So once we know where we are, next is what? Where do we go?
Yeah.
Right? So this is where, visualizing or creating a vision for change, vision for transformation is something important, where we want to go. So once we define where we want to go, then it's all about the strategy. Now, how do I move from point A to point B? So this is where the strategy, tactics, and the plan will come into picture, right? So this is the second part of it, and the third part, most importantly, the starting point for transformation. All of this preparation stuff is done, but what next is you need to engage the leaders and do a value stream identification workshop. Very, very important step, part of the SAFE transformation. Even if you look at the SAFE implementation roadmap, once you create the guiding coalition and after training the leaders, what we do is organize around value. What does it mean? Organize your value stream around value, organize the agile release train around value, and also the team around value. So today the complexity may be very different. There are different functions, different department may be contributing for solution delivery, right? But they're working in silos.
Yeah.
All the way from idea to market, the value has to pass through multiple functions department, which is actually injecting delay to the product development.
Correct.
So now we need to connect the silos by organizing them around value. So this is a workshop, may take about half day, 1 day, even 2 days, depending on the complexity. So you engage the leadership of the portfolio, the decision makers, run through these workshops to create the value stream. So we start from, it's a step-by-step approach, what SAFE talks about, 5-step approach, all the way from operational value stream to identifying the development value stream, then the train.
Okay.
Once we are done, it is also good to define some of the transformational objectives, measurable objectives. So, OKR is the best way, best approach, is, define the objective and how do we measure it, so that once we embark on this journey of SAFE, at regular intervals we can reflect and see, are we going in the right direction, or what kind of adjustment we need to do in this journey. I think defining the value stream, identifying and defining the value stream and the transformation objective probably is the next step to go about it.
So we got an idea about the initial aspects during a SAFE transformation. Let it be the support from the leadership or the SPC getting engaged in the transformation. And we spoke about the value stream identification. And you also mentioned that SAFE is a more structured way of transforming, right? Because we are also including people from across the organization, everybody, whoever is responsible for delivering the value. What next in the journey?
Yeah. See, most of you or most of our viewers might have seen Skilled Agile Framework. Right? If you go, say skilledagileFramework.com, you'll see the big picture. Right? So it has different configuration, essential, large solution, portfolio, and full SAFE. So at least, some of them or most of them might have seen. But what they might not have seen is the implementation roadmap. So SAFE has an implementation roadmap. What is implementation roadmap? It's a step-by-step approach to implement SAFE framework. So now whatever we spoke so far, is only the first couple of steps in the implementation roadmap, where we have an SPCs, we created a guiding coalition, then we engage the leaders, we train them, we engage them, we identify the value stream. So now we are getting into the further steps in the implementation roadmap. So quickly, if I want to summarize it, once we identify the development value stream, the train, and the agile team, then the plenty of other preparation has to be done, especially let's say people point of view. So when we say people point of view, different people are getting into different roles, SAFE roles, and we have an agile team. So it means we need to train them. So there are different certification programs, different training programs for each of the roles. We have for leaders, we have leading SAFE, especially the art leaders. We have product owners and product managers. We have POPM training. For Scrum Masters, we have SAFE Scrum Masters. We have agile teams. We have SAFE practitioners, and we also have for architects and other roles. So going through this is something important. So commonly, I also see that some organizations say, we don't want to invest so much of time and money on these trainings. But if you ask me, I certainly disagree with that. The reason is, it's a big change what we are bringing it up in the system. If people don't know their role, how to play effectively, if the team don't know what they're supposed to do, or what is expected of them to do, then how can you expect them to perform? So investing some amount of time is definitely needed for them to learn these concepts. This is one side, the people side aspect. The second thing, you also need to figure it out even before the training, who is going to play what role. Currently they are playing some role, probably the role mapping has to be done. So it's good to look at their attributes, their interest, playing those roles. Then definitely backlog, creating that vision, the roadmap, the backlog is something very, very critical. For preparing the art to launch. Then we have to look at the tooling, the workflows. Then whole lot of logistical preparation. So plenty of that. So all these things has to be done. Then we are getting into our first ever PA planning. Right? That's called art launch. The first ever PA planning is called an art launch, and the journey from the art identification to the art launch may take about 6 to 12 weeks, depending on the complexity of the context or the complexity involved in the engagement. May anyway take about 6 to 12 weeks. So with all this preparation, then we are kicking start our safe journey for first PI.
So for a safe transformation, consider if you have to say, an organization is following safe. For the transformation, usually how much time is taken?
See, again, it's the complexity of the engagement or the complexity involved, in the particular context. See, if you ask me, I certainly don't want to treat this transformation as a project. So what does it mean? Project has a definite start date and definite end date.
Yeah.
Definitely, I don't treat transformation like that, because transformation is a relentless improvement. So you need to continuously, relentlessly improve. Right? So, in order to answer your question, we may start seeing some business benefit from the PI1 itself.
So that is for like 2 to 3 months time.
Yeah, the typical PI is anywhere between 2 to 3 months, depending on what organization has adopted as the cadence for the PI. So in 2 to 3 months, you may start seeing some, value, especially, the continuous feedbacks are happening. Broadly, the alignment is brought across, the product development, the people who are involved, alignment between the solution builders and the business, many of those, right? And also at the end of the PI, you get to reflect that, what did we commit and as a trend, what did we deliver? So you get to understand at the end of 3 months, and at the regular intervals at the end of every iteration, you also have mechanism to reflect in terms of the system increment itself in the form of system demos and so on. But in order to produce some substantial, visible improvement, I would say 3 PI on an average, right? But in 3 PIs, are we able to solve all the aspirational transformation objective? Probably the answer is no, right? But are we able to see a trend in which we are improving? The answer is yes. So probably, see, if I want to quote 1 or 2 examples, in one of the large product development where I was indicating earlier about 400-500 people involved, where their time to market was anywhere between 18 months to 24 months.
Okay.
So we were able to reduce it to 6 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So plenty of such examples. Personally, I experienced it. And another example where it's an automotive company. They were building the solution. It's more like a platform. They were building a solution for almost like 1.5 years, but they were unable to make even 1 release.
Okay.
But in the first PI itself, they were able to produce 1 release. Right? So there are many such examples, early indicators which will show that we are going in a right direction. And when you plot the graph on the measurements, the key performance indicators, that will help you to understand, are we going in a right direction? And I would say this journey has to continue relentlessly. You may not need an expert consultant like me or someone else to handhold them forever. Probably their journey is required in the initial days to heavy lift the work and also support them maybe for a couple of PAs. And after that, we might have built that required competence and capability within the system, within that, the product line for them to continue the journey.
Okay.
And if they continuously, reflect, inspect, adopt, and adjust, I think whatever they're aspiring, the objective, sooner or later, definitely they will accomplish.
So, generally, have you seen these safe implementations happening mainly in software, or you have instances where safe has been implemented in other industries also?
See, if you look at it, majority definitely for software development, but it does not mean that it is not applied for solution development. There are many examples where I was involved. It is applied for the whole solution development, which is a combination of hardware, software, firmware, and stuff like that. In fact, we were involved in one of the engagement. It's a company which they build robots for warehouse management. Latest technologies, and it's a combination of hardware, software, electromechanical stuff. So where we implemented safe, for the entire solution development, and are pretty successful as well. They're able to see some good value coming out of the safe transformation. There are instances where we implemented safe for healthcare product as an entire solution. There are plenty of such examples are there, but if you look at majority, applied for software development, and the things are changing rapidly, because now a lot of case studies and solutions also available in terms of how can we apply Agile for hardware development, how can we apply safe for hardware development. A lot of such understanding and education exists in the marketplace, and I'm sure this continue to grow in the coming years.
So you were sharing your experience of safe transformations apart from software industries, right? So in your experience with different industries, safe transformation, can you share us a couple of critical challenges that you came across, and also the greatest results that safe has brought into the organization?
Yeah, see, the challenges and the magnitude of the challenge may vary from one organization to another organization, and also depending on the current state, right? So, for example, somebody who is 120 kgs and want to reduce it to 80 versus somebody who is 90 kilo and want to reduce it to 80, right? So the complexity is going to be different, and of course the time involved is also going to be very different. So the typical challenges, one is dealing with mindset, to start with. Especially, if it is a proactive transformation, people think that everything is working well and why do we need to change and stuff like that. So dealing with that thinking, the mindset and the resistance, some effort definitely has to be put in place. Number one. Number two is connecting the silos, moving them from the function-based or department-based to a value stream organization. I think this is another big challenge in any transformation, especially in the large organization. The portfolio may exist from many decades, the product line may exist for many decades. They're organized in certain way. Now suddenly if you want to go and reorganize them, reorganize them around value, so you will have challenges. So that's why we say, even when you organize them around value, part of our value stream identification, we say don't look for perfection. So there is nothing called perfection, at least in this context, because if you look for that perfection, by the time you launch, probably time is going to be significantly high. Instead, what we say is look at broadly how you want to organize them around value, and also keep some room to make adjustment at the end of every PI. This is where the beauty of inspect adopt will come into picture at the end of every PI. When the organization do I&A, looking what adjustment need to be done even to the structure, that's very much possible. So if at all made some initial compromises, we can go back and readjust the way we are organized. This is another structural agility as the problem, common challenge what we see. And especially the large scale products which are built from long time, We see competency is also another challenge, because when you want to work in a agile release train, agile team, having the T-shaped skills at least is something important. But commonly what you see is mostly the I-shaped skills, a deep specialty in one area. So moving them to be cross-functional and making them to think beyond their niche skill is another challenge. Typically what you look at it. And also, again, this legacy products, will have automation related problems, architecture related problems, the continuous integration related problems, a whole lot of these kind of engineering challenges also you encounter. So, we might have to see, how do we tackle it. So addressing all of this, overnight on one go is also not practical and viable. We may also have to see, systematically, structurally, not overloading the system with too many changes at any given point in time. We have to come up with a strategy to tackle, many of this.
Great. We got a very good idea about,
But I've not answered one more. The benefits which you asked for. So, see, the benefit, again, I will say reflect back, in the starting of the journey, whatever the transformational goals or the objectives you are defined, which is actually the burning issues which you really want to address it. So reflect back and see, are we, able to accomplish, are we going in the right direction at regular intervals? But coming to my engagement, the predominant, the success what we have seen is, especially in the time to market, taking the solution to the market. Somebody in an organization releasing in 18 months to 24 months, there are, instances where, we reduce it by 3 times, from 24 months or 18 months to, 6 months. If somebody who's, doing 6 months, there are instances where, there are multiple releases in a month, multiple releases in a given PI. And a significant amount of importance is given to built-in quality. It means the time and the money what we spend on dealing with the quality issues, the defects, all that will substantially come down. So we define some metrics to figure it out, the amount of investment what we are making to deal with that. For a period of time, it substantially comes down. Part of this, we see efficiency improvement happening, and most importantly in product development is one thing which is very important is predictability. Now, how predictable the team, what they commit and how much they deliver. If that predictability is there, then planning things around and making commitment to customers and stakeholders becomes much easier. So producing, or achieving that predictability, the zone in which they are going to operate. Predictability, I'm not saying it's a straight line, but they're fluctuating, but within a given range. So we are able to achieve predictable, agile release train, value driven, and most importantly, value, right? So how continuously we are able to deliver value? Are we able to quantify it, right? So some of those are typically the measurement what we, look at it from the development capability point of view, but eventually which you can also link it to some of the business, the results, maybe related to your org metrics, revenues, NPS, many of those you can link it, because if this is showing good, then definitely it should impact those. If not, then something really going wrong. There is a disconnection, right? So if these things are falling in place, then ideally it should produce some business outcomes as well, the business KPIs. So I think these are some of the good benefit what we see, in safe world.
In the short conversation, we got a lot of idea about safe transformation. How do we start? What are the important things that we need to concentrate? How do we consider the entire organization, considering the value, what we have to deliver to the customer? I'm sure, our conversation would not end over here. However, we would continue our conversation around transformation and many other topics in the next episodes. Thanks for being with us, Satya, here. It was a very nice discussion with you.
Absolutely. What we spoke is, probably the tip in the iceberg, part of the transformation. Many times the transformation goes for many years, and what we spoke is last maybe 15-20 minutes talking about the transformation. Always the complexity is on the ground when we approach, and the real-time experience, and the tools and techniques provided by the framework is definitely going to help to implement safe and producing business outcome and achieve business agility.
Looking forward for many more interesting discussions.
Thank you.
Hope you all enjoyed this podcast. Stay tuned for more.